Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Today is Sunday, May 16, 2021. Fox report: UK bracing for surge in sick kids after COVID lockdown lowered immunity to common respiratory virus. A common respiratory virus is potentially on the rise in kids in the United Kingdom because of COVID-19 lockdowns, medical professionals told The Sun. The HSJ reported that models show that beginning this fall there could be between 20% and 50% more cases of children needing to be hospitalized from respiratory syncytial virus, otherwise known as RSV, which usually causes mild, cold-like symptoms and can be serious for infants and seniors.
Fox report: dozens hurt in bleacher collapse at Israeli synagogue. Jerusalem, AP. Israeli medics said Sunday that dozens of people were injured in a bleacher collapse at an uncompleted synagogue in a West Bank settlement near Jerusalem. Amateur footage showed the collapse occurring during prayers Sunday evening in Gavat Ziv, just outside Jerusalem, at the beginning of the Jewish holiday of Shavuot. The ultra-Orthodox synagogue was packed with hundreds of people.
Al Jazeera report: Liverpool goalkeeper Alisson heads his way into EPL history books. Liverpool goalkeeper Alisson Becker scored a 95th-minute winner as the Reds beat West Brom 2-1 on Sunday to keep a place in next season's Champions League in their own hands. Jurgen Klopp's men would have needed favours from Leicester and Chelsea in their final two games of the campaign had they failed to beat the already relegated Baggies. But the Brazilian was sent forward for a corner deep into stoppage time and headed home Trent Alexander-Arnold's delivery.
Fox report: 4 Alabama officers hurt after argument over dog ends in deadly shooting. 4 Alabama police officers have been hospitalized after a shooting at an apartment building on Sunday. Birmingham Police Sergeant Rod Malden told reporters at a news conference that officers responded to a call at approximately 6:30 a.m. of a man and a woman who were shot on the 1000 block of Richard Arrington Jr. Boulevard. The male, discovered unresponsive on the sidewalk, was pronounced dead on the scene, while the female was taken to a nearby hospital, where she was later pronounced dead.
CNN report: these Uyghurs were locked up by the U.S. in Guantanamo. Now they're being used as an excuse for China's crackdown in Xinjiang. The men crouched inside the cave, their faces streaked with dust, occasionally flinching involuntarily at the explosions overhead, which seemed to shake the entire mountain. Outside was a vision of hell. Vast plumes of smoke and debris were thrown up into the air as US B-52 bombers and fighter jets let loose a seemingly endless barrage of missiles. The noise from the bombardment could be heard from miles away, a deep, hollow booming sound as each bomb struck.
Al Jazeera report: Iran calls for international action on apartheid, Israel. Tehran, Iran. Iranian officials have called on the United Nations and fellow Muslim nations to step in to stop apartheid, Israel from attacking Palestine, while a top military commander has pledged Iran will stand by Palestinians. The High Council of Human Rights of Iran, an entity under the Supreme National Security Council currently headed by Judiciary Chief Ibrahim Raisi and comprised of several ministers, has written a letter to UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres to take action on genocidal acts and racial cleansing being committed by Israel.
Deutsche Welle report: India. More corpses found washed up on Ganges river banks. Indian police on Sunday were reaching out to villagers in the north of the country after hundreds of corpses were found in shallow sand graves or washed up on the banks of the Ganges River. Recent reports of large numbers of people falling ill in villages, and then putting dead bodies in the river, comes as COVID-19 has seemingly spread to India's rural hinterland, where 70% of its 1.3 billion people live.
Al Jazeera report: historic. Chile votes for who will draft new constitution. Santiago, Chile. Maribel Mora Carriao, a Mapuche poet who lives in the Chilean capital, was excited to cast a ballot on Sunday in what she described as a historic election for the Mapuche people. Carriao flew to Freire, a small town in southern Chile, to vote, and be closer to her roots. We are voting with pride and identity for the first time. We have taken this process very seriously and we are very much aware that this is a unique opportunity not only for us but for the Chilean people as a whole, she told Al Jazeera.
BBC report: COVID, Taiwan orders toughest curbs amid infection spike. The authorities are shutting down cinemas and entertainment venues until the 28th of May, while limiting gatherings to 5 indoors and 10 outdoors. President Tsai Ing-wen urged the public not to panic by basic necessities. Taiwan, which has so far survived the pandemic almost unscathed, on Sunday reported 207 new infections. The island of 23 million people has recorded 1,682 infections and 12 COVID-related deaths since the start of the pandemic.
Deutsche Welle report. Government forces clash with Taliban in Afghanistan. Helmand province official Ataullah Afghan said clashes had resumed Sunday between the Taliban and government forces. He said Taliban fighters had attacked checkpoints on the outskirts of Helmand's capital, Lashkar-Gah, and in other districts. "Do not put the blame on us," Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid told the news agency AFP. He said government forces had started the operation. The regional government reported that 21 Taliban fighters had been killed.
Deutsche Welle report. Cyclone threatens India's west coast, leaves several dead. At least 6 people have been killed and large areas inundated, houses destroyed and trees and power lines uprooted by a severe cyclone that hovered off India's western coast on Sunday. Cyclone Taukte, the season's first major storm, is expected to make landfall on Tuesday in Gujarat state, a statement by the India Meteorological Department said. Packing winds of up to 140 km per hour, 87 miles per hour. Taukte has been building up over the Arabian Sea and has moved northwards past Kerala and Karnataka states and is currently located northwest of Goa.
BBC report. Myanmar military take rebel town of Mindat, Chinland. Activists from the volunteer Chinland Defence Force say they have retreated from Mindat to spare the town further bombardment. Mindat is one of several towns where opponents of the military have armed themselves. Nearly 800 people have died in mainly unarmed protests at February's coup which ousted the elected government. BBC Southeast Asia correspondent Jonathan Head says the army now appears to control Mindat.
Fox report. Second Amendment sanctuaries facing first court test in Oregon. The first court test of whether local governments can ban police from enforcing certain gun laws is playing out in a rural Oregon county, one of a wave of U.S. counties declaring itself a Second Amendment sanctuary. The measure that voters in the logging area of Columbia County narrowly approved last year forbids local officials from enforcing most federal and state gun laws and could impose thousands of dollars in fines on those who try.
CNN report. The bizarre story of the inventor of ransomware. Eddie Willems was working for an insurance company in Belgium back in December 1989 when he popped the floppy disk into his computer. The disk was one of 20,000 sent in the mail to attendees of the World Health Organization's AIDS conference in Stockholm. And Willems' boss had asked him to check what was on it. Willems was expecting to see medical research when the disk's contents loaded. Instead, he became a victim of the first act of ransomware. More than 30 years before the ransomware attack on the U.S. Colonial Pipeline ignited a gas shortage in parts of the U.S. last week.
CNN report. BBC journalist quits as investigation into his landmark Princess Diana interview wraps up. The BBC journalist who conducted a bombshell 1995 interview with Princess Diana has resigned for health reasons, shortly before a report is to be published investigating whether he acted improperly to secure Diana's permission to take part. Martin Bashir has been accused of using forged documents in order to convince Diana to sit down for the interview, in which she caused a crisis within the royal family by detailing the breakdown of her marriage to Prince Charles.
CNN report. Why Virginia's 2021 elections have national implications. Last week, Glenn Youngkin earned the Republican nomination for this year's Virginia governor's race. Virginia, along with New Jersey, hosts the only gubernatorial elections this year. Voters throughout the Old Dominion will also be casting ballots in legislative elections, and while Virginia is just one state, or commonwealth, the outcome in these races could give us a real clue about where the national political environment stands heading into the 2022 midterms.
Thank you for watching 5 p.m. Recap. To be notified, you can subscribe our channel and activate the bell.